really me. I didn't realize you were still here. Hey, so, if you're watching this, me, you, my Christmas tree, it means that you're watching part 2 of what would have been a 3.5 hour long video that I've split into 3 parts. This was mostly a last minute decision to keep me from throwing up and crying in my mouth, because at the point of me filming this, I've spent 101 hours on this video already, and I still have about 9 hours worth of work left. So, anyway, here's part 2. All right, next I watched A Winter Princess. Next movie we're watching is A Winter Princess, and I am endlessly baffled by the concept of a winter Hallmark movie. While I was compiling this list, I saw that there were royal movies that were set at different times of the year. Meghan Markle was even in one, but those did not appeal to me because they were not part of the plan. The plan was to watch royal Christmas movies. And part of me wanted to do, like I said at the beginning of this, part of me wanted to do just the ones that said royal, but the release dates, I didn't want to miss any crucial details. A Winter Princess is another winter movie. It has all the hallmarks of a royal Hallmark Christmas movie. Royalty falling for a commoner, waltzing, a ball, but it has nothing anchoring it. Like, at least A Royal Winter had the decency to show a date, January 10th. So I knew I wasn't getting a Christmas movie, but I decided to stick with it just in case, just to see what this information would do to inform my knowledge of the actual Christmas movies. This one doesn't have a date at all. I saw one wreath in the movie, and in a panning overhead shot, no! I saw one wreath and an establishing shot where a single pine tree had some lights on it and there was garland over a door lintel. And those didn't even really seem like, they were so blink and you'll miss it. I couldn't even be sure if they were intentional. There was nothing to determine the time of year this was taking place. And okay, at this point, I've managed to watch 3 non-Christmas movies in my effort to watch only Christmas movies. I'm gonna throw up in my mouth. And each one of these does break from the Christmas tradition in some way, which makes sense. But with the other 2, A Royal New Year's Eve and A Royal Winter, at least they mostly conformed to the status quo. A Winter Princess was all over the place. Like, it doesn't fit in any of the templates. Not prime, not secundus, not tertius. Like, okay, so first and foremost, these generic winter movies are roughly 84 to 87 minutes, just like every other Hallmark Christmas movie is. Just long enough to hit 1.5 hours with commercials. But the Christmas movies, and heck, even the New Year's movie, all have the benefit of the montage. Decorating the tree, baking the cookies, making snow angels, going on sleigh rides, singing jingle bells, laughing amongst the tinsel, wandering through a Christmas market and buying wrapped gifts. And it's all set to the most generic, made-for-TV, license-free carol you've ever heard in your life. But these festive montages are a great way to eat up a minute or 2 of screen time while still shuffling the plot forward, okay? But these winter-themed movies feel like they, especially A Royal Winter and A Winter Princess, feel like they take the full runtime of the Lord of the Rings Return of the King extended edition because they don't have these montages. Without these little tasks and traditions and activities, it's just winter and cold, and they have to fill all the space that would have been devoted to the montages with like 82 tiny little scenes where for example, there is a scene at an ice skating rink where the princess is doing a beautiful pirouette on the ice, and the romantic lead comes up and he's like, hey, talk to the girl. And she's like, yes, talk to you as well. It fades. It cuts to clearly several minutes have passed, maybe even hours have passed, but now it's just the guy on the ice alone, and his sister walks up to him and they have a conversation. And then it fades and they're all still wearing the same outfits, but the guy now meets the girl in a coffee shop. Like, time is not progressing. These jumps are going in increments of half hours to maybe an hour or two, instead of full days passing as a Christmas montage happens. It's just these tiny little micro scenes where they keep talking about the same stuff over and over again in slightly different locations, and nothing moves forward because there's only so much plot in these movies and nothing to use as filler. Anyways, this long movie was absolutely unique in terms of everything I've watched so far. It did not fit into Prime, it didn't fit into Secundus, it didn't fit into Tertius. Firstly, we followed a princess, a winter princess, of course, which is rare, as the only other princess by birth that was also the female lead was in Once Upon a Holiday. But instead of being set in New York like a royal fish out of water tale, or being set in the princess's small European nation as, a Prime or Secundus movie would be, it was set in Colorado at a ski resort. And I mean, color me surprised and delighted to see my home state represented on the screen and to see the beautiful Colorado license plate on a truck, but still, it was quite the departure from what we're used to. Anyway, Carly, or Her Royal Highness Carlotta of Landora, yes, the country's name is Landora. Landora. They named this country. They said, what should we name this land? Landora? Woo! Anyway, so Her Royal Highness Carlotta of Landora is the twin sister of the Crown Prince and the peacekeeper between her father, the king, and her brother, the heir to the throne, Gus. But she took a year off from being royal to get some real-world life experience, and the story picks up with her on her last day of work as an assistant event planner at this Colorado ski resort. But the main event planner just quit because her boyfriend got a job in Denver, and the ski resort is just seasonal work, but this means that no one is available to oversee the 50th anniversary snowball and all the events leading up to it. Sleigh rides and ice skating rinks and cocoa and stuff like that, all things that could have been done at Christmas, but for some inexplicable reason are not. And wouldn't Carly please just stay 2 weeks to help out? Now, her boss has no idea that Carly is a princess, and this is a chance for Carly to actually build something she could be proud of and take charge of the event and not just be an assistant event planner. So she calls her father, the king, who reluctantly agrees. And while she's doing that, the owner of the ski lodge calls her brother, Jesse, who is a hotshot general manager of a luxury ski resort over in Aspen. It said it was 200 miles away. So I'm not sure where that means it is in the state. And she asks Jesse to come help out with the snowball since it was their parents' resort before they both died. And Jesse went off to become a hotshot manager of a different ski lodge, and she took over the family business. Jesse and Carly plan the snowball, and it takes 87 trillion years instead of 87 minutes to do so. But along the way, there is an actual love triangle for a hot second, which almost never happens in any kind of way that leaves you guessing in the other Hallmark movies. Like, there's always the wealthy guy or the wealthy girl that the royals should be going for, but can't in the face of their spunky American. But here we were so far off the beaten path that I couldn't begin to guess who she was going to end up with. Because Jesse was, of course, the hardworking mountain boy American commoner who, was obviously destined to charm the princess. But Gus, her twin brother, shows up with his friend Prince Emil, the prince of a nearby country who had a crush on Carly when they were kids. So I was like, oh, okay, like an actual childhood crush trope is being introduced here with the prince. And here's the other thing. Jesse, the charming American, is very business-minded. Like, I think in any other scenario, any other Hallmark movie, he would have been the city boyfriend who gets dumped by the girl who goes home and meets the Christmas tree seller or whatever. But because he is going up against a prince, he seems like the down-home option. But the prince actually does seem to like Carly. Like, it doesn't seem like it's about what they should be doing or their duty. He actually, despite being a little bit hoity-toity, he seems like a decent guy who likes her. Like, he has held a little bit of a torch for her since they were in school together. And so I was like, who will win, the small town hero or the childhood crush? I could not begin to guess. Honestly, there was a point in the movie where it could have gone either way, so I was I was out at sea. I was lost. I keep finding myself time and time again siding with whoever is saying that the royal and the commoner shouldn't get married, because when you look at it logically, it's going to be a huge change for either one of them. If the prince or the princess is going to stay a prince or a princess, that means that the charming American has to uproot their entire life, move to another country, and you know what? That is not an issue if they love each other very much. I actually have a friend who's getting married and doing exactly that. But there is also all of the pressure that comes with being a royal and giving up the career that they worked for and becoming this public figure and having your whole life constantly being lived in the public eye. That's not just, I'm moving to another country to marry the man I love. That's, I'm moving to another country to become a public figure in that country, and I have to change everything about myself to do that. That's a huge, huge change. And then on the other side, in like the rare case where the prince or princess has the option of abdicating the throne and they choose to take that to be with the American person they love, that means that their entire life has to change. They have to give up their lineage and the thing that they've been raised to do their entire life to move to another country and build a life and get a job and be it's just, what skill do you have? The skills to be a businessman in America if you've been a prince your entire life in Europe? It's just it doesn't make sense. And it's really gonna be a struggle for these people. And in some way or another, there's gonna be a huge sacrifice that's really, really hard to get past. Half of these people have only known each other for the 2 weeks leading up to Christmas. And I think you need a little more time. Okay. I think you need a little more time. At least in A Royal Christmas, she and Leo had been dating for a year. And while she loved designing her dresses and working in her father's tailor shop, you can design dresses anywhere. That's not something that was going to cause any issues. But there are other ones where it's just your goals ultimately do not align. The life you have been living and the dreams you've set for yourself do not match becoming a member of the aristocracy. They are two paths. Never the twains shall meet, okay? Okay, but in A Winter Princess, the prince is actually a decent guy, and he and Carly have known each other a long time, and he understands her, and he understands her life, and he's nice, and he would clearly be a good fit because she's not going to be queen, okay? So here's the thing. Her brother is going to be king, and he clearly relies on her. When she didn't show up in Landora for their birthday, he flew out to Colorado because he's we can't spend our birthday apart, okay? So once he's king, she's going to have a lot of public appearances, and she's going to serve as counsel and support for her twin. So the general manager of the Aspen Ski Resort is going to give up his career and leave his sister behind to become a royal show pony, and I could not see how any of this was going to work out, especially since on the guy's side, his whole thing was he was learning the true meaning of not Christmas since it wasn't Christmas, but his whole thing was should I give up my luxe cushy job as a luxury general manager to come back and be with my sister and work at the family ski resort? So that's brewing, and she's I have to go home to be a princess soon. So I just couldn't see how any of this was going to work out. Well, here's how it goes. The prince realizes that maybe he doesn't actually like her. He just wanted to take a year off being royal and was jealous of her. And so he's don't worry, we don't have to date. And then her father, the king, is why don't you just move to Colorado and become an event planner? You have my blessing. And the ski resort, which was struggling, is going to open year round now because a bunch of famous people came to the Snowball since a princess was hosting it. And so now the townspeople can have year round jobs and they don't have to travel to Boulder or Denver or tear their community apart trying to find a living. And Jesse is going to quit his Aspen job and move back home. And she's also just going to stay in Colorado and be an event planner. And everybody's just going to live happily ever after. And I don't know. Okay. So I've aged 70 years in the time since I started this movie. My children and my children's children have grown and started families of their own. And I guess it's just whatever. okay? She might as well be an event planner in Colorado at a ski resort instead of doing her duty to her people. Who cares? Nobody. Not me, clearly, at this point. And sure, her brother has shown that he has no ability to exist without her, but whatever. He doesn't need her support because the king's gonna live forever, right? And even if he steps down, that's resolved. Death toll, up by 3. Her mom's dead, I think, and Jesse's parents are both dead. I don't know if I'm even counting this because this isn't a Christmas movie, but it also can't be ruled out as a Christmas movie since there was a wreath and one lit up tree, and they never said what time of year this was. Oh, okay, things to note. Gus, the future king, was played by the same actor who played a reporter in Once Upon a Holiday. Connections. So here's what I'm thinking. Was he just doing his best to out a secret royal before that secret royal could out his identity? So maybe he had taken a year off, like Carly took a year off to be an event planner in Colorado. Maybe he took a year off to be a news reporter in
New York City.
And when he saw somebody that he knew from his royal, from the royal circuit, he's like, I gotta blow this story wide open so that she doesn't reveal who I am. None of this is supported by the evidence in the movies, but I think I'm gonna go with it because there's very little to tie any of these together. So let me just have my fun where I can. And of course, for the TTCHFCCU, there is not a single thread to tie it to anything, but that's fine because this wasn't a Christmas movie. Okay. I'm calling it right now. I have either completely lost my ability to critique film, or this movie was fantastic. One Royal Holiday. This, I think, is going to be the best one of the bunch. It was good. I might give it 4 stars on Letterboxd, and I've given almost every movie I've watched this year 3 because I just can't decide, and I think this is worthy of a 4. Now, I just feel like it had everything. It had Aaron Tveit in it. Like, the main girl was charming, the prince was funny, it had its cheesy Hallmark moments, but like, it was actually super cute, and like the romantic moments actually hit, and it made me tear up a little bit at the end. I liked this movie, and her dress, she had the best dress. She had the best dress of all the dresses we've seen so far, and I think I'm on my 8th or 9th film right now. I also know that starting sometime this afternoon, my head started to feel like there was a big pressure on it, and like the back of my head felt tight, and my stomach is kind of nauseous. Like I've got a lot on my plate and a lot's going on, and I can't really think anymore. And so I might just be lost in the Christmas sauce, but I think One Royal Holiday was actually good. I think it was good. I think this was a good movie. One Royal Holiday was a good movie, unironically. Okay. Fire's going. Recording. I cannot believe this. I just filmed this entire section. I filmed 15 minutes of footage and didn't actually film anything. Next on the list is One Royal Holiday. And all I have to say is spectacular. Give me 14 of them right now. Oh my gosh. I cannot tell you if what I'm about to say is accurate, but One Royal Holiday was good. Like, perhaps even unironically good. I don't know if it's because I just had to slog through the frigid wasteland that was A Winter Princess, or if it's because the movie had Aaron Tveit as a prince, but it was good. I think what made it work so well was that in a lot of ways, it sort of subverted the expectations set out by the movies before it. And it managed to be like a perfect inversion of the Hallmark Royal Christmas Prime template. The major similarities and staples are there, of course. A Northeastern spunky American with a deep affinity for Christmas meets a European prince, doesn't know he's a prince right away, and manages to charm him by treating him like a regular person, commits Christmas activities with him, waltz practice, beautiful dress at the Christmas ball. Those are all there and those are all the same. But in most versions, as I discussed at the beginning of this when going over the different templates, the spunky American somehow makes her way to Europe and from there becomes a regular guest at the palace. And despite running into difficulties where she doesn't fit in or slightly embarrasses herself by grabbing the wrong fork or wearing the wrong thing, or has to butt up against the queen or the chancellor or the advisor that are all against the match, she does eventually win the heart of a prince. Well, in this version, Prince James of Galwick and his mother are donating. In this version, Prince James of Galwick and his mother are visiting Boston, and in particular, Boston General Hospital, to donate some money in thanks for the care they provided for Prince James's father, the King of Galwick, 3 years prior. The king had spoken so highly of the hospital and was treated so well that he had another 2 years with his family after a major heart attack before ultimately passing away. So the queen and the prince finish their speech and they start heading to the airport, and in the car the prince is working on his second ever Christmas Eve address to the nation, which he's very worried about because the first one did not go well since he was grieving so deeply over his father at this time. The queen asks if they can pull over and get some tea, so they take a quick pit stop at a coffee place called Dan's Donuts or something like that, and it just looked like an off-brand Dunkin' Donuts logo. And before we go any further, one thing I want to say about the queen is that she is a delight. Now, I think I've made it very clear that in almost every other Hallmark movie, the queen is always cold and calculating and more concerned with duty than her child's happiness, and she eventually comes around at the end and gives her blessing, but at first she is very chilly and mean towards whatever common American girl has wandered into her palace. This queen is a delight, and I say queen in all senses of the words, like go queen. No, just don't say that. This queen is a delight. She is funny, she's warm, she likes the main girl, she encourages her son to loosen up and not take things so seriously. Like, I love her. I love the queen in this movie. She is so good, and I'm so happy to have watched this movie with her in it. So this, great, love her. So they pull over and the prince goes into the coffee shop. James gets in line behind our female lead, Anna. Anna is a cardiac nurse who's on her way home to this cute little small town where her father runs a charming and historic inn, and they've these great Christmas traditions, and she's very excited to be on her way home for Christmas. And she buys a Christmas cruller, and it turns out there's a 2-for-1 deal on the donuts, and she doesn't need to because she couldn't possibly have 2 donuts on a long drive. That would be insane. Sorry. So she's like, hey, dude in the suit behind me, do you want a Christmas cruller? And he's like, no, thank you. I do not eat American pastry. And then she's like, wow, this is really good. And he's like, I'm sure it's not as good as a Galwickian Christmas cake. And she's like, what's a Galwickian Christmas cake? And he's like, oh, it's a light pastry with cream filling, chocolate drizzle, and sugar sprinkled on top. And she's holding basically that exact same donut in her hand, and he refuses to accept that they're close things, and that's their first fight. How cute. Anyway, while this whole Christmas cruller interaction is going on, the prince's attaché comes in and he's like, hey buddy, just check the weather, and that storm that we were worried about has indeed grounded all the planes. They've closed all the roads into Boston, and we have nowhere to go. And Anna's like, hey, my dad has an inn, you can come with me, it's up in Canterbury or something like that. The prince is like, no thank you, I do not want to do that. But the queen, who's a delight, is like, let's take advantage of this very nice offer that we're getting. The big issue is that the driver cannot take them any further because he's got to get home for Christmas. And so Anna's like, I will also drive you. And that all works out. Okay, so they all get in the car and they're driving there. And this is where we see the inversion happening, because remember, like I said, the spunky American always goes to this small European nation. Well, now the European prince is going to this small American town, and he's becoming a guest in the girl's house and learning the girls' traditions, and he's embarrassing himself by, being too overdressed at dinner or wearing the wrong shoes on the way to the Christmas parade. And there's even talk of a Christmas Eve pajama ball where everybody wears jammies and just has like a relaxing night in drinking hot chocolate together. And that, if they would have stuck with that, it would have made this movie like beat for beat the perfect inversion of a Hallmark Royal Christmas Prime movie. But alas, and also yay, they do opt to switch the pajama ball to an actual regal, elegant evening, which is fine. It's fine. I love a Christmas ball. I love the idea of a Christmas ball. But it just, if they would have kept it as a pajama ball, it would have been a perfect inversion. But I do not think it is our fate to escape any of these movies without some sort of grand dress reveal and some sort of dance-based party at the end. So basically, at the end of every single night, the prince is like, goodbye, I'm leaving first thing in the morning, I'll never see you again. And every morning they wake up, and there's some reason that he and his party cannot leave the house. More snow on the road, a tree on the bridge, black ice, but each day that the prince is there, he starts warming up to Anna. The two of them start to bond. And each day he's there, and as they're bonding, they're doing more and more things together, like, carols and sleigh rides and a Christmas parade and gingerbread house making and decorating the tree and decorating the ballroom for the ball. And the happier he is to be there, the less he wants to actually leave. There's this super cute scene where, the prince is all chipper and he comes downstairs and he's like,
Good morning, Ed, my good man. How are we looking out there?
Dad's like,
There's quite a bit of black ice.
and Prince is like,
Well, that's very dangerous.
Did you hear about the black ice?
There's black ice on the road.
it was very, very cute. So it's like there's just, everybody's having a super nice time in this cute little inn. So during the gingerbread house building, the prince and the queen learn that Anna is a cardiac nurse and that she works at Boston General and that she was working on the floor when the king was in Boston General Hospital. And they ask if she knew him by his fake name, but she regrets to inform them that she does not recognize the fake name, but she must have passed him 100 times while he was there, and she just wishes that she could have been there to have met him. Eventually the roads do clear and the royal family is able to leave, and the night before that happens, Anna tried to find the courage to tell the prince that she had feelings for him, but ultimately she chickens out, and neither one of them say what they feel for the other, and they go their separate ways. Anna doesn't even say goodbye when he's leaving, because it just seems so illogical that a prince and a spunky American cardiac nurse could be together. Anna is, helping wrap up planning for the Christmas Eve ball. The prince goes home. He makes his Christmas Eve address to the nation, which goes way better than it did the first time because he listened to Anna's advice and just spoke from his heart about his love for his people. When Anna is watching this on the phone, she realizes that she made a terrible mistake and she needs to go to Galwick to tell the prince how she feels, because their love is worth whatever the challenges are. But as she makes that decision and goes to run out of the house, it turns out the prince is already there. He finished his Christmas speech, and him and his mom, the fabulous queen, and the attaché all flew back just for the Christmas party, and they confess their love for each other, and it's very beautiful. And the prince gives Anna a folded sheet of paper, and on that folded sheet of paper is the final address to the nation that the king had written before he passed. And one of the things that the king talked about in that address to the nation was the hope and joy that he received from a nurse named AJ while he was in Boston General. And the prince is like, I know this was you. And Anna was like, I was wearing a name tag that said AJ because there was another Anna on the floor. And so the prince shows a picture of the king and she says, that was Henry. And so she didn't recognize the fake name, but she did recognize the actual king's picture. And she was with the king and she got to hold his hand and spend days and hours with this guy, really just trying to get him through this terrible time. And Anna got to tell the son that.
He was so proud of you. He talked about you.
And the prince was so worried that, he was disappointing his dad. So to get to hear this from the woman he loved, I'm about to cry again because it was good. This was a good movie. And it just really did super well there by the end. I liked this movie. So it was sweet, and it had these cute little side romances where the prince's attaché fell in love at first sight with Anna's best friend, who happened to also be the mayor of the small town. And then Anna's dad and the chef for the inn were kind of falling in love, and it was just cute and it was good and I liked it so much. And if we are going to talk about the death toll, we just need to add two: Anna's mom and Prince James's dad. There was something I wrote down in my notes where I said, I think from this point on, I need to monitor my mood and analysis very carefully, because if, as I fear, my reviews of these movies just continue on this positive trajectory, because as we were going up to this point, like, I was getting frustrated with some of the not Christmas movies, but like, I was enjoying myself more and more, and each movie seemed to be getting better. Like, the chemistry between the prince and the girl in A Royal Winter was really good, despite the movie being kind of slow. And then that same girl had great chemistry with the king in Christmas at the Palace. Sure, Winter Princess was a long, horrible slog, but like, it was cute enough in its own way, and Carly was a kind of, so it was like, I didn't like it, but like, my feelings on the actual acting was getting more and more positive, especially when we hit this movie, and I actually like really enjoyed it. And I was just afraid that if it continued on that path, we were going to realize that I lost something important along the way, and that I was no longer truly myself and not to be trusted. But if I fluctuated, and if from here on out we see dips and rises in the quality of the movie, and I'm still able to somewhat objectively critique and view these films, we can all agree that this was actually just a good movie. So we'll see. I know where we go from this point on, but keep an eye out just in case I've lost my objectivity and my ability to critique film. So TTCHFCCU, she does have the right eyes, and so did the Queen. But at this point, loose, flimsy. I don't think there's anything tying things together. I think maybe my brain is okay. I think maybe my brain's fine. I think maybe my brain is working exactly the way it should. Because if you notice my face, this is a face I find myself making watching A Christmas Carousel. I am not loving it. I don't like what I'm seeing. The prince is too smarmy by half. He's walking around like this. It's not fun. It's not good. It's not right. And the girl is fine, but she's chipper in a way that I'm not enjoying. And my head still feels like it's being stuffed full of cotton, like somebody opened a hole in the back of my brain and filled it with like glittery Christmas paper. I think I need to go to bed. I've hit the halfway point. I've watched 9 movies so far. I have 2 days. I have to watch. I've got time. I think I need sleep. But I don't like this movie as much as I liked One Royal Holiday. I think that's the winner so far. Next, we have A Christmas Carousel. This movie made me angry. I just realized I've been watching this movie like this. It made me angry in a way that those 3 not Christmas movies that totally wasted my time and ate up hours that I'm never going to get back did not. It just filled me with waters of rage. And I don't know why. It just feels like, in comparison to all these ludicrous scenarios, this movie's plot feels like the weirdest and most forced, okay? Like here's the thing, a generational carousel repair woman and part-time art teacher with sky-high aspirations of becoming the program director of a local elementary school flies to a small European nation where she meets a goofy artisan prince, and the two of them decide to make an art-based gallery event to convince a duke to donate his manor to the crown so it can become an art school. All the while, she and her father work on repairing an old Christmas carousel that her dad's great-grandpa built for the king or queen of the small European nation 200 years earlier. And while this is all going on, okay, they still have time for a bunch of random wandering and Christmas activities while this 200-year-old carousel needs to be completely renovated, basically from the ground up, in 2 weeks, okay? Like, why does that feel so much more outlandish than a pair of figure skaters falling in love with a king and his advisor in a country founded on Christmas Eve? I bought that more than I bought this. I bought that. It was stupid and it was made of tinsel, but I bought it and I'm keeping it. But this, a Christmas carousel, you could never sell me that. You could never sell it to me. I am buying nothing. I am not invested. They keep trying to offer me, like, say, oh, do you want this artsy prince in a paint splattered cardigan who might be a playboy but really he has a heart of gold, when all the actor does, like, that's what they're trying to sell me, okay? And then you turn around and the prince is like holding a paintbrush and he's like, well, it's always very nice when I meet he said, it's always very nice when I meet beautiful women. And he like has this look on his face the whole time. He's like, well, I'm here because I want to do good for the people.
I would say he's more friendly than roguish.
So there's that, okay? And then, and they're trying to pair, you could get two for the price of one, and the two for the price of one is that smarmy prince and this part-time art teacher, and I don't care. I do not care. Nothing they did or said reached me or touched me at all. I was behind an impenetrable wall, and all their best efforts to woo me did nothing. No. They and the two of them were too, like, immediately flirty. And it just was like, he was smarmy and she was just like normal girl flirty. It didn't work. It's like, this movie had all the bones of a Secundus plot, okay? It had all the wood framing nailed up, and it was all ready for drywall. Like, the drywall had been ordered and is just sitting under a tarp waiting to be nailed into the wood beams. But then someone went and started making this weird little side room that wasn't in the blueprints, and now the house doesn't make any sense because listen to me again when I say this one more time. The king was alive. The prince has a young child in the castle at this time. And in any other movie of this nature, he would have been a widowed king whose father and wife had died, leaving him a single father. And he could have been a single father who cared about the arts and was trying to get the Duke to donate this manor so that he could start an arts foundation in honor of, like, the passion that he has for the arts and the passion his daughter has for the arts. And then this lovely American art teacher could have come in and, I'm sure, also be a generational carousel repairs woman. And then, like, through the art, bonded with the daughter and bonded with the prince and is able to found this school with them and live happily ever after, right? The Secundus plot. It makes sense. But no, instead, the king is alive and the prince is just kind of there. He's listless. His dad is disappointed in him because he doesn't ever show any drive or any desire to do anything. He keeps saying he's not a playboy prince and the tabloids are misrepresenting him, but he has no drive or motivation or care for his people. And he's a little bit too old of a prince to be getting away with that. Like, they chose to have him acting like a 22-year-old prince who, like, maybe just graduated from college but didn't quite want to take over his responsibilities. This man is clearly in his late 30s to early 40s, okay? Like, I'll just say it. He should have been someone's dad with the person that they cast. This is nothing against anybody. I'm 31 years old. I'm no spring chicken. I'm just saying that if you're going to cast actors that have a little bit of gray in their hair, the Secundus plot. Okay? Right. So that's going on. The dad is disappointed in his... I'm going to call him a playboy prince, even if he doesn't... They call him, like, the Casanova prince. And he's like, I'm not a I'm not a Casanova prince. I just have never been ready for marriage. And all those women that they take pictures of me with, they're all just friends. There's that whole thing. And then also he's listless, but he cares about art. Oh, isn't that nice? And then the niece is like, I'm here. Oh, my parents are just both out of town and I'm here right now and I love to sing. And my part here is pointless because I'm just the niece who happens to be visiting for Christmas. Like, what role does she play if not his daughter? That didn't make sense. And so it just like none of the parts fit together. None of the pieces melded. None of it gelled. And of course the king didn't want them to be together. And then the art teacher and the prince are like, I care about you, but I can't care about you. We're too different. We can never be together. And then the king changes his mind. And the prince tells his rich girl, almost fiance, that he can't marry her. And she doesn't want to marry him either. And there was a misunderstanding and she has... Like the girl, the main girl, oh gosh, I can't even talk about it. I can't care. The main girl stays long enough to hear the royal niece, sing a Christmas song in a minor key, and that's the song that finally makes the guy understand that the arts are important. But like, again, why was her passion singing when the passion of the two leads is art? I mean, singing is an art, but theirs was like painting and crafting things with your hands arts, not musical arts. And then like they all go to the renovated Christmas carousel and they wish on the wishing horse, which was this whole big thing. And then they're like, huzzah, we're going to be together forever. And then they Christmas kiss. And they live in the country of Marcadia. 2 people died in this movie. They didn't actually die. It was like her mom and his mom are both dead moms in this movie all around. And I could not pay enough attention to this movie to see if there was any connection to the TTCHFCCU because this movie made me unhappy and distressed. And it just flames
on the side of my face.
Next, we have Christmas at Castle Heart, and this was another Lacey Chabert Christmas Cinematic Universe entry, and of course a more direct tie to the TTCHFCCU, although of course there's nothing actually tangential tying anything to the TTCHFCCU because I've given up the ghost at this point. They don't connect. They do not connect. So, what is Christmas at Castle Heart about? Well, I'll tell you. I don't even know why I watched this one. It's about an earl and it's not even about a prince, okay? So 2 sisters, Brooke and Margot, are waitresses who work for a well-known event planner before they both get fired, and while they're leaving the building, they joke that they don't need these jobs anyway because one day they're going to be great event planners. And please note that at this point they have never done any event planning, they have only been waitresses. And I'm all for having a dream, but just to establish realistically what their level of expertise is. They have not yet done that job. Back in their massive New York City apartment. Okay, this is not the same building. It's not. With their obscene displays of wealth. And tell me how these 2 cater waiters who just lost their jobs can afford not 1 but 2 Christmas trees. And wreaths. Okay, the thing is, maybe they were better off several years ago, but that's 2 fully decorated Christmas trees, each one probably costing, if it's a real tree, that's like $35, $75. If it's fake, it's like $100-something that they spent several years ago. We can assume that they might have bought the trees over the course of several years, but those 2 wreaths alone are probably like $45 to $50. And then there's that weird little skinny guy back there doing something. And so it's like, and that rug? That's a nice rug. That's probably like a $75 to $100 rug. And that window is worth more than I could afford in rent for like 4 years, probably. You can see the Empire State Building. There is no chance that those 2 cater waiters can afford, with no jobs, can afford that window, that view, those 2 wreaths, those 2 Christmas trees, and that weird pine stick, and that bundle of poinsettias. That alone is $15. I'm almost positive. I might even be underselling it. Yes! Doesn't make any sense to me. The two talk a bit about their shared dream of becoming event planners, but again, keep in mind they are not event planners yet, and they decide, since they're both jobless, to take the money that their dad left them for a rainy day to fly to Ireland and try to find their deceased father's bio relatives, since he was adopted, and they know that his family is an Irish family by the name of this is what they do. And like I said, this is possible because they are both jobless and can leave at a moment's notice. And they are also both single. And I will note that Brooke, who is played by Lacey Chabert, who got married at the end of A Royal Christmas, is now divorced. So, are we to assume that it didn't work out with Leo and now she is jobless in New York as a waiter and her Taylor dad is dead, and now they have to go look for Irish relatives? If we're looking for connections, I mean, that's there. So now we've got a couple different crossovers. So in one case, we've got the girl who wooed the Winter King of Calpurnia, and then in the span of less than a year broke his heart and became a world-renowned ice skater, and then beguiled the Christmas King of Sansonova. Then we've got the secret royal Gus from A Winter Princess, who blew the cover of the 17th Princess of Montserrat when he was a reporter hiding his identity as a royal, and he discovered another secret royal who could blow his cover. And then finally, we've got one of our classics, one of the very first prime examples of what is possible in a royal Christmas Hallmark movie, divorced, jobless, and with a dead dad now. Connections, I suppose, if we're trying to connect lore. There's nothing, but we can go by the actors. So there's that. Anyway, the two of them fly to Ireland for Christmas, and while they are there, they stumble across the Earl of Castlehart, who overhears Margot saying that they're both event planners because they're trying to seem a little bit cooler while they're on vacation instead of saying they are waitresses without jobs. So, I worked as a hostess in a restaurant. I've never done waitressing yet, but I have all the respect in the world for a waitress. I just don't like this movie. So please do not take my tone as any sort of derision for waitressing. I cleaned toilets for 6 to 7 years of my life, so I have nothing to say to anybody about anything. Just let me have this tone. I'm mad at the movie. I am not mad at you. Make your tips, queens and kings. Do whatever you need to do. I love you. And anytime I see you at a restaurant, I want to kiss your hand and bless and wish you blessings upon your house. Anyway, while they're there, they stumble across the Earl of Castlehart, who overhears Margot saying that they're both event planners instead of saying that they are waitresses who recently lost their job. So when he later finds out from his sister, who runs the Castlehart / hotel in his absence, that their event planner flaked for this big event, he brings Brooke and Margot in as the backup event planners. But because Margot is a liar, she says that Brooke's name is Paige Monahan, which is the name of the woman that fired them. So now, amidst the Christmas revelry and the Irish step dancing and the Christmas tree decorating, the story about finding their family takes backseat to them planning a Christmas party. And here's the thing. There's been a subtle increase in event planning ever since Christmas at the Palace. Like, there were notes of it in some other movies, but at least A Royal Christmas Eve, her job was an assistant. So event planning made sense, right? But event planning has slowly started becoming like a major staple since Christmas at the Palace. I don't know who started to incorporate that, but it's a late edition trope that is now blooming before us to my intense disgust and dislike. Because, okay, Christmas at the Palace, you've got two figure skaters fresh off a world tour that they planned, okay? They planned and executed all of the choreography, all of the tour stops, everything. And they are asked to do a Christmas skating program. It's a little outlandish, sure, but it felt believable because that seemed to be their job. And all the planning that they were doing, holding auditions, choreographing the skating program, the costumes, were all things that they had been long established as being capable of. And they weren't having to find locations or hire caterers. The only stuff they were responsible for was stuff that they were good at and had a lot of experience in. So that didn't ring any alarm bells. It made sense as part of the story. Then we had a winter princess, and while that's not a Christmas movie, the princess's whole job was to plan the snowball. She was an event planner. That was the career she had spent the year building. So it was still stressful, and I didn't like watching it, but that was the point of the movie. The movie was somebody needs to host this snowball. Who could do it? The winter princess. So still, fine, right? Didn't love it. The conversation seemed repetitive and it was dull without the benefit of Christmas montages, but whatever, it made sense. And even in One Royal Holiday, there was an element of event planning, but it was subtle. It was very finely finessed because the main girl, Anna, that we were following was not solely in charge of the event. The event was not sprung upon her. It was a long established event that was half planned already, and the only reason she was in charge of decorating or setting up the venue was because there was a the storm knocked a hole in the roof of the venue where everything was already planned, and she was like, there's a ballroom in the inn, I can help set it up. And she volunteered to help out because she always volunteered to help out. It felt very seamless. It was just one of the many fun Christmas-tivities, and it was more about her and the prince decorating and looking at ornaments together than it was about the event itself. So with all three of those, the event planning didn't stick out to me. It made sense for the characters and it made sense to the story and it fit. But, and like I said, I could not figure out what about Christmas Carousel was annoying me so bad until I started feeling the same way about Christmas at Castle Heart. And it's because somewhere along the way, they started making event planning the Hallmark staple. Cookies and sleigh rides and Christmas tree decorating and event planning, even when event planning makes no sense for the story at all. And sure, I get it. Planning an event together is an easy way to force intimacy, and it gives the two romantic leads lots of excuses to spend time together. I get it. I do. But if you aren't willing to do the work to make it fit the story, then you gotta stop making them plan events. My problem with it is twofold. Fold one, it feels nonsensical, and I cannot suspend my disbelief. And I just spent 9 movies suspending my disbelief and accepting that there are about 18 hidden European kingdoms with handsome sons of marriageable age. At least in Castle at Christmas Heart, they tried to incorporate something about the two sisters wanting to be event planners, sure, but they don't have any experience doing it. You've also got their dad dying before he could find his bio family. And that concept could have led to a beautiful story about finding family, finding out who you are, and, coming together at Christmas. But that got relegated to a B plot. Or you've got Lacey's character, divorced, learning to cope with being single. And if that had been the focus, it could have led to a lovely tale about finding yourself in Ireland, which everybody goes to Ireland to find themselves, and then finding second love at Christmas. But that, I wouldn't even call that a C plot. I would say that's more like an E or an F plot, if it's a plot at all. The fact that she is divorced is mentioned 2-3 times, never mentioned again, all in passing, and it doesn't seem to factor into her personality or inform her journey at all. But still, they at least mentioned event planning as a passing interest. I will give Christmas at Castle Heart that. In A Christmas Carousel, she's a carousel repair woman and part-time art teacher and wannabe elementary school program director. In what world does that translate to royal event planning? I kept being like, what are they doing? Why are they spending so much time on this? And the other thing is, in both movies, these are characters with no established experience in event planning that are trying to plan an event for actual royalty and members of the aristocracy in a foreign land they are visiting for the very first time. And it's you don't know where anything is. You don't know the land or the people or the customs. You do not know their Christmas traditions. You don't know which temp agencies hire out the best cater waiters. You should not be in charge if you do not have this experience. You know what? You should hear this too. And I'm mostly doing this again because it's taking forever to save these files and I want to finish this part, okay? So listen to me. Like I said, you should not be in charge if you do not have the experience or the skill set. And I'm sorry, you can really see my weirdly bloody eye when I do these close-up shots, but we're just accepting that, okay? Anyway, fold number 2. In what world is this romantic or fun? Like, listen, the little girl dream of falling in love with the prince and becoming a princess is very straightforward and classic. You go to the ball in a beautiful dress, you meet a handsome prince, you dance, you kiss, you live happily ever after. Want to know what's not part of that? Planning the ball. Be a guest, sure, fun, no pressure beyond finding something to wear. And in the case of these movies in the fairy tale, that the dress itself is usually a gift that someone else provides anyway. But now we've got 5 movies in a row where the fantasy suddenly includes having less than 2 weeks to plan an elegant event for actual royalty involving a classy venue, dancing, and a 3-course meal served by a full staff in a country you've never been to. And you gotta consider that you've got weird cell reception most likely, since your international plan probably makes it difficult to call anybody. I know when I went to London, I could call anybody back home in America, but I could not call a single business in London. My phone just would not let me do it. So there is enough stress being on a European vacation with travel and sightseeing and fitting in all the Christmas activities and falling in love without adding an obscene amount of busy work on top of that. Research, phone calls, interviews, taste testings, reviewing band audition tapes, touring venues. Like, the sheer amount of checklists alone that I would have to make would be enough to ruin any expensive European vacation. The hours dedicated to just going through the thought process of getting this all figured out. It's stupid and I hate it, and it just keeps happening. Anyway, they plan this stupid event and it goes off beautifully. Like, what makes me so mad is they are like, sure, yeah, we'll plan this event, and then times pass and they do like a montage of event planning, and then they're like, well, 10 days left and we're on schedule. I'm like, you're on schedule? How do you know where anything is? You've never been to Ireland before. Anyway, they plan this stupid event and it goes off beautifully, but Brooke is riddled with guilt because she's committing identity fraud. And then just as she's about to confess, she gets ousted by the real Paige Monaghan, and the Earl is like, I trusted you. I trusted you. and the Earl is like, I trusted you, and storms off. And then the Earl's sister is like, you got to consider that she didn't do this to lie to us. She did it to help us, and they threw a good party. And then Brooke finds him and apologizes, and he apologizes, and they stupid Christmas kiss. And then as a silly little afterthought, the movie's like, oh, and by the way, we found your family, the O'Reillys. And all I gotta say is that this next movie better not have any event planning or I'm gonna scream. Death toll, add 4, because everybody's a full orphan in this movie, and the TTCHFCCU, nothing connects to anything anymore and none of it matters. Well, I hope you enjoyed part 2.